So let's talk about finance. Let's talk about jobs financed. And well, first off, before I say, I hope everybody's having get ready for a great weekend, if you even know that it is a weekend, because their days are running together. I know where I am in California, it's now starting to get warmth, and that's a beautiful thing for our industry. So I wish all of you a lot of warmth moving forward, because I think that's going to be really, really important for us. So hopefully it's going to start getting more and more, we're going to start seeing more and more heat out there. So if we talk about KPIs when it comes to finance in particular, it's really hard to sit there, and I don't think people think about KPIs in finance the way they do with David Holden, NCI, and the way Tom just went through it, right? But with us, there's one real big trigger we're seeing, which is you should be offering financing 100% of the time. The medium-sized dealers are financing about 50% of the time, and the most successful dealers are financing 70% of the time. So let's go over a couple of things that help you achieve these goals. And right now in today's world, it might not be that difficult to do that, because quite honestly, financing is probably going to be an everything in our current situation. But either way, let's go over some basic practical best practices for financing. Offer financing to every customer every time. Biggest mistake people make is not offering it every time. Do not prejudge people. Do not sit there and think people can't afford it, or people have a big house, they can't afford it. Right now, in my conversations with our banks, in my conversation with Interbank, in my conversations with GreenSky, the one thing they're seeing is an inordinate amount of people that would normally just do cash payments, or would normally don't do financing, are taking advantage of no interest, no payment solutions right now. So that's one of the key things we want to focus on. Secondly, accept that every customer that does not hand you actual cash or check, can we go back? There we go, thank you, is using finance. If they're using a credit card, they're financing, right? If they're using a credit card, you're taking finance. So do better for you and your customers. Offer no payment solutions, offer low payment solutions. If they're using a credit card, they're probably maxing it out. They're probably part of a bigger payment. They're probably on a higher rate. You're actually helping your customer, putting them on a better finance program with no payment. Make sure you train yourself and your team to use financing. EGIA will help you. We will offer you that success. We'll offer you that practice to make sure your team is familiar with it. Don't be afraid to talk to your customers. It's amazing how many times when you stop being afraid of having that conversation about how they're going to pay, you can find out that they're looking for affordability. And the moment you can start making more expensive and better quality equipment affordable to them, the more success you're going to have. And expect your team to close every deal with finance. And if you're going to be using finance successfully and you want to grow your business, measure and then measure again. Talk to your salespeople. When they come in, ask them why it didn't close with finance. Because when you close with finance, you're going to see your tickets go up. And it's a real easy thing to do. Take all your credit cards, because remember, those are finance. Take all your credit cards and all your finance jobs and just divide that by the number of jobs you sold, right? So if you've done 27 credit card and finance jobs and you sold 100, you're at 27% finance. And in this market, that's not going to make it. You're going to have to do it up to 70% of the time. And be quite honestly, you may have no other choice. So again, the biggest message I can bring here is offer finance 100% of the time. That has to be the KPI you're reaching on finance, and strive to get over 70%, because the most successful contractors we are using are 70%. Ben, can you go to the next one? Here's an example of a dealer that we actually worked with. I just want to highlight this real quick. We started working with this guy in Florida, actually, and in 2017, he came to us because he wanted to do a financing program, and it wasn't working for him. He was financing about 5%. Only when people raise their hands and say, hey, do you have financing? He was really lopsided on his sales. He was doing 83% 14 base units, 14 SEER, was never selling anything energy efficiency. We got him set up on an Interbank program where he was using no-cost programs, and he was leading with a 12-month no-no, right? We had the goal of you've got to offer finance 100% of the time, and we wanted to get him up to a 70% closing. Within a year later, by 2018, He was doing over 72% financing just by leading with it. He didn't even have to sell it. It would sell itself, right? 22% was base units versus 83 before. And look at the 18 and 20 SEER. He was at 20% 18 and 17% 20 SEER, right? Which was a significantly more energy efficient, a significantly bigger profit. All we're trying to teach you is the KPI you have to use with financing is offer it 100% of the time. You'll get to closing 70% of the time. And in this situation, this contractor's profit went up by 45%, right? And this is a real deal. I could probably bring out dozens of stories just like this on how we've got to focus with financing, right? So go to the next slide real quick, and I'll just wrap this up. This is me. It's Mike, Eric, and Matthew. Please text money to 713-856-1853, right? Let us sit and have that conversation with you. Let us go over this on how we can help you learn to do this. If you go to the Goodman Business Toolbox or the Amana Brand Business Academy, like Ben was telling you, you're going to see a ton of live webinars that we've got. We've got each of the banks. I've got Todd from Menor Bank. I've got Dave from Green Sky. I've got the banks are hosting with the EGIA events so you could deep dive into the banks. I've even got a Canadian one for our Canadian brethren out there. We've got that starting Thursday, so Canadian webinars are going to be up. Reach out. Let us help you. There's no cost. There's no additional fees. There's nothing to it. We just want to make sure you're successful.